This is Jarrod Horak for the RunawayHorse.com, and this is my latest Belmont Stakes video update. We're now 1 week out from the Belmont Stakes, and if you're interested in my annual Belmont Stakes Day full card from Belmont Park, head on over to the RunawayHorse.com. That will be available Belmont Stakes week on my sales page. I'm also going to cover Belmont Stakes only analysis if you don't want the full card and just the Belmont. I'm also going to be doing stakes races for Thursday, June 9th, Friday, June 10th from Belmont Park. They're going to have multiple stakes races both of those days. That will be a product. And then also my Santa Anita Park full cards next Friday through Sunday. So all of those products will be available Belmont Stakes week at the RunawayHorse.com on my sales page. You can pre-purchase some of those now. Just head on over to my sales page for details. Now we're going to go through the field of the horses that are pointing to the Belmont Stakes right now as of Saturday, June 4th. The Belmont Stakes will be Saturday, June 11th. So Barber Road is one that's pointing to the Belmont. Trainer John Ortiz, jockey Joel Rosario. He was 6th in the Kentucky Derby. Not a bad effort in a 20-horse field. He did get a lot of pace help. He tried hard. He ended up 6th. He's one that always hits the board. At least he did in Arkansas at Oakland Park when he was in those Kentucky Derby points races. He just found his way in the money in all of those races. And he's one that could easily find his way in the top 4, one of those positions in the superfecta if he can handle a mile and a half. Creative Minister for trainer Kenny McPeak is pointing to the Belmont, and Brian Hernandez Jr. will ride. He was 3rd in the Preakness Stakes. They supplemented him to the Preakness for $150,000. He was not embarrassed finishing 3rd. And now it's just a question of, can he run another big race in a short time frame? Because he ran on the Kentucky Derby undercard. He won an optional claiming race there. And then he ran 3rd in the Preakness. He started his career late this year. So he's one that's crammed a lot of races in a short time frame. How much more development does he have in him in such a short time? Maybe he needs more time between starts before he runs another big race. But he's one that you at least have to consider. He ran a decent race in the Preakness. Ethereal Road for trainer D. Wayne Lucas. Luis Saez will ride. He was 1st in the Sir Barton Stakes on the Preakness undercard. The good thing about that performance, Pimlico's main track races, Preakness week, for the most part, horses that showed early pressing speed won a lot of those races. Ethereal Road was one that rallied from off the pace on Preakness Day to win. That was a nice effort. He was just better than the company he was facing in the Sir Barton, and now he's going to stretch out in distance from 1 1/16 to 1.5 miles. We'll have to see how far he can go. So far, against top company, Ethereal Road has not been able to perform up to expectations, and we'll see if that will change in the Belmont Stakes. Golden Glider for trainer Mark Casse. Mark Casse has won the Belmont Stakes before. The rider is Dylan Davis. He was a distant 2nd in the Peter Pan behind We the People, and that was a wet track. We the People got out there. He really enjoyed that wet track, and he ran away with it. Golden Glider was 2nd, and that qualified him. He got a berth in the Belmont Stakes for finishing 2nd in that race, and they're going to take their shot here. It seems like it's a fairly wide open race, and why not take a shot? He's another one, like Ethereal Road. He needs to step it up when he faces graded company. Howling Time for trainer Dale Romans. Joe Talamo will ride. He's another one that's going to need to step it up in graded company. And early in his 2-year-old season, he was good, and then he was in the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes. He controlled the pace. He could not keep going. He's one that disappointed earlier this year. They dropped him into optional claiming company at Churchill Downs last time out. He was able to get a confidence-boosting victory there, and now he's back up in stakes company again. So we'll have to see if he can handle the step up into stakes company. He's one that does have the ability to be forwardly placed. Mo Donegal, your likely Belmont Stakes favorite for trainer Todd Pletcher. Irad Ortiz Jr. will ride. He was 5th in the Kentucky Derby. He got a lot of pace help. He didn't have a great start, but that didn't hurt him because the pace was so fast. But racing so wide and rallying so wide was the thing that probably hurt him more than anything else. But the race really did set up for him. He was 5th, not a bad effort at all. Back in New York could make all the difference for this one. He's one that won the Remsen Stakes at Aqueduct in New York as a 2-year-old, and he defeated Zandon that day. Zandon won the Bluegrass Stakes this year, and then he was also 3rd in the Kentucky Derby. Mo Donegal this year, he was able to win the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct at 1 1/8, rallying from off the pace, and he was able to catch early voting. Early voting won the Preakness Stakes. So Mo Donegal against top company has performed well in New York, and now he's back in New York again. He's been training in company in this for this Belmont Stakes with his stablemate Nest. A 3-year-old filly for trainer Todd Pletcher. Jose Ortiz will ride. She was second in the Kentucky Oaks behind Secret Oath. Now, I think the key there was Secret Oath from that inside post was able to get an outside trip, and Nest was stuck inside, and she likes to stalk outside. And she seems to have a lot of stamina. And if anyone doubts her stamina, just go back and look at the Donegal Stakes when she was a 2-year-old, and she was just racing so wide at 1 1/8 that day, and she was able to win anyway. And she's one, I think that she has a lot of stamina, and I'm not going to question that she can't get 1.5 miles. I think she really has a nice pedigree, and she has a lot of stamina, and she has at least some positional speed. And I think that she could be a contender in here. If you like Mo Donegal, maybe Nest could be a contender as well. Rich Strike, your upset Kentucky Derby winner for trainer Eric Reed. Sonny Leone is going to ride back. That was a stunning result in the Derby. The pace was just so fast, and the top 7 horses that were up on that pace, the pace just fell apart. None of those horses were around at the finish, and Rich Strike was able to weave his way through traffic and get the job done to upset the Kentucky Derby. And then they did not run in the Preakness. They decided to skip the Preakness, give him more time, and run into Belmont. And that was the right move, and I think that Rich Strike is not going to get the same pace scenario that he did there. And that's the question more than anything else. His pedigree's fine. I think that 1.5 miles could be within reach. It's just he's not going to get that same setup, and we're going to have to see what kind of race he's going to end up running, because he's not going to get a lot of pace to run into. Skippylongstocking was 5th in the Preakness Stakes last time out for Saffie Joseph Jr. Manny Franco will ride. He's one that was 3rd in the Wood Memorial. He's going to have to step it up a bit against graded company. I thought he was a live long shot to hit the board in the Preakness. Wouldn't be shocked if he finished 3rd or 4th in the Belmont Stakes. We the People is the last one, and the 10th and last one that is pointing to the Belmont Stakes. So Rudolph Brissett, Flavien Prat is the rider. The Peter Pan Stakes was outstanding, and he was good earlier this year at Oaklawn Park as well. And then in the Arkansas Derby, he didn't run well, but then they regrouped, put him in the Peter Pan. He caught that wet track, he controlled the pace, and he ran away with it. He has a classy pedigree, and he's one that he could be the one to catch. If you look at the field here, there's not a lot of pace, and it looks like We the People can get out there and set the pace. And if he can set a controlled tempo, and that's going to be the key, if he can control it and just be relaxed on the front end, maybe he can last a long time, and I wouldn't be shocked if he wired the field. This doesn't seem to be the strongest Belmont Stakes field ever. So now let's go through some of the recent workouts. And Rich Strike had a workout. I mentioned that in my last video, that he was going to be having a workout between races at Churchill Downs, and he did just that. He had a decent work that day. He looked good. They were able to get him to relax, and he was going 5 furlongs at 59 and change. A good solid workout for Rich Strike. And then he shipped to Belmont Park, and he's been galloping, and his connections say he's been handling the surface fine. And like I said before when I talked about him, it's just a question of what kind of race is he going to run here. He's going to need to relax, and sometimes, even though he's a closer, sometimes closers need pace help, and he's not going to get it. And maybe we'll have to see if he can settle. Just because he's a closer doesn't mean he's going to settle. He may want to go, and the pace is slow, and you have to time that move just perfectly at Belmont Park. We've seen so many Belmont Stakes where riders it's such a long race and such a big track, the riders will misjudge, and the horses don't have the best trips. Now, back-to-back times, we talked about last time that Mo Donegal and Nest had a good teamwork. And again, today, on Saturday, June 4th, they again had a good team drill. And Nest has been holding her own against Mo Donegal, and he's the Belmont Stakes favorite. And they're going to take a shot, and they're going to run her in the Belmont Stakes. If you like Mo Donegal, based on the workouts, you have to like Nest. She's a Grade 1 winner. She won the Grade 1 Ashland. She's a multiple graded stakes winner. She seems to have a lot of stamina, and she has a classy pedigree. So Nest could be one worth considering. Now, We the People has been having some good workouts at Belmont Park. We already know he handles the surface, but that was a wet track last time out in that Peter Pan. Now it's not going to be, we'll have to see. If it's a wet track again, maybe he's just going to skip away just like he did last time. But if it's a fast track, maybe the result will be different. We'll just have to see, just based on his workouts. And he had a workout also on June 4th, and he looked good working. His trainer was able to work him there, and he looked good. And Flavien Prat has been winning everything, and he's one that he's going to give him every chance to succeed. It's just a question of, is he going to be able to get the distance? So those are some of the workouts from the top contenders. Oh, and also Barber Road had a gate work at Churchill Downs. And then that's when they mentioned that Joao Rosario was going to ride. And he's one that, like I said, if you're playing exotics, Barber Road's probably worth looking at in the Belmont Stakes. So that's the latest doings for the Belmont Stakes. Now, the next Belmont Stakes video I'll do after they draw post positions and we get the field in line and they get the morning line. Later in Belmont Stakes week, I'll come back and I'll do a Belmont Stakes video giving out my top selection in the Belmont Stakes. Again, if you're interested in purchasing any of my Belmont Stakes week products, head on over to the runawayhorse.com, click on my sales page. You'll find all of those products there. And that will wrap up this video. And I'll be back next week with my big Belmont Stakes video. Until then, good luck at the races.